Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club, and we are continuing our reading of an autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda Paramahansa. And we're going to start with chapter 37. And here we go. Chapter 37, I go to America. America, surely these people are Americans. This was my thought as a panorama of Western faces passed before my inward view. Here's a footnote about that. Many of those faces I have seen since in the many of those faces I have since seen in the West are instantly recognized. Immersed in meditation, I was sitting behind some dusty boxes in the storeroom of the Ranchi school. A private spot was difficult to find during those busy years with the youngsters. Here's another footnote about that. In 1995, marking the 75th anniversary of Paramahansa Yogananda's coming to America, a beautiful Smriti Mandir commemorative temple was dedicated on the site of the former storeroom in Ranchi, where Paramahansaji's vision occurred. Publisher's note. The vision continued. A vast multitude, gazing at me intensely, swept actor-like across the stage of consciousness. The storeroom door opened as usual. One of the young lads had discovered my hiding place. "Come here, Bimal," I cried gaily. "I have news for you. The Lord is calling me to America." "To America?" The boy echoed my words in a tone that implied I had said to the moon. "Yes, I'm going forth to discover America. Like Columbus, he thought he had found India. Surely there is a karmic link between those two lands." Bimal scampered away. Soon the whole school was informed by the two-legged newspaper. I summoned the bewildered faculty and gave the school into its charge. "I know you will keep Lahiri Mahasaya's yoga ideals of education ever to the fore," I said. "I shall write you frequently. God willing, someday I shall be back." Tears stood in my eyes as I cast a last look at the little boys and the sunny acres of Ranchi. A definite epoch in my life had now closed, I knew. Henceforth, I would dwell in far lands. I entrained for Calcutta a few hours after my vision. The following day, I received an invitation to serve as the delegate from India to an international Congress of Religious Liberals in America. It was to convene that year in Boston under the auspices of the American Unitarian Association. My head in a whirl, I sought out Sri Yukteswar in Singapore. "Guruji, I have just been invited to address a religious congress in America. Shall I go?" "The doors are open for you," Master replied simply. "It is now or never." "But sir," I said in dismay, "what do I know about public speaking? Seldom have I given a lecture, and never in English." "English or no English, your words on yoga shall be heard in the West." I laughed. "Well, dear Guruji, I hardly think the Americans will learn Bengali. Please bless me with a push over the hurdles of the English language." Here is a footnote about that. Sri Yukteswar and I ordinarily conversed in Bengali. When I broke the news of my plans to father, he was utterly taken aback. To him, America seemed incredibly remote. He feared he might never see me again. "How can you go?" he asked sternly. "Who will finance you?" As he had affectionately borne the expenses of my education and whole life, he doubtless hoped that his question would bring my project to an embarrassing halt. "The Lord will surely finance me." As I made this reply, I thought of a similar one I had given long ago to my brother Ananta in Agra. Without very much guile, I added, "Father, perhaps God will put it into your mind to help me." "No, never," he glanced at me piteously. I was astounded, therefore, when father handed me the following day a check made out for a large amount. "I give you this money," he said, "not in my role as a father, but as a faithful disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. Go then to that far western land, spread there the creedless teachings of Kriya Yoga." I was immensely touched at the selfless spirit in which Father had been able to quickly put aside his personal desires. The first realization had come to him during the preceding night that no ordinary desire for foreign travel was motivating my plans. Perhaps we shall not meet again in this life, Father. Perhaps we shall not meet again in this life. Father, who was 67 at this time, spoke sadly. An intuitive conviction prompted me to reply, surely the Lord will bring us together once more. As I went about my preparations to leave Master and my native land for the unknown shores of America, I experienced not a little trepidation. I had heard many stories about the materialistic West, a land very different from India, steeped in the centuried aura of saints. To dare the Western airs, I thought, an Oriental teacher should be hardy beyond the trials of any Himalayan cold. One early morning, I began to pray with an adamant determination to continue, even to die praying, until I heard the voice of God. I wanted his blessing and assurance that I would not lose myself in the fogs of modern utilitarianism. My heart was set to go to America, but even more strongly was it resolved to hear the solace of divine permission. I prayed and prayed, muffling my sobs. No answer came. At noon, I reached a zenith. My head was reeling under the pressure of my agonies. I felt that if I cried once more, increasing the depth of my inner passion, my brain would split. At that moment, there came a knock on the door of my Garpar Road home. Answering the summons, I held a young man in a scanty garb of renunciant. He entered the house. He must be Babaji, I thought, dazed, because the man before me had the features of a young Lahiri Mahasaya. He answered my thought. Yes, I am Babaji. He spoke melodiously in Hindi. Our Heavenly Father has heard your prayer. He commands me to tell you, follow the behests of your guru and go to America. Fear not, you shall be protected. After a vibrant pause, Babaji addressed me again. You are the one I have chosen to spread the message of Kriya Yoga in the West. Long ago, I met your guru, Yukteswar, at a Kumbh Mela. I told him then I would send you to him for training. I was speechless, choked with devotional awe at his presence, and deeply touched to hear from his own lips that he had guided me to Sri Yukteswar. I lay prostrate before the deathless guru. He graciously lifted me up. After telling me many things about my life, he gave me some personal instruction and uttered a few secret prophecies. Kriya Yoga, the scientific technique of God realization, he finally said with solemnity, will ultimately spread in all lands and aid in harmonizing the nations through man's personal transcendental perception of the infinite Father. With a gaze of majestic power, the master electrified me with a glimpse of his cosmic consciousness. If there should rise suddenly within the skies sunburst of 1,000 suns, flooding earth with beams undeemed of, then might be that Holy One's majesty and radiance dreamed of. And that is from Bhagavad Gita. Is that 11? A little rusty on my Roman numerals here. Verse 12, maybe? Arnold's translation. In a short while, Babaji started toward the door, remarking, "Do not try to follow me. You will not be able to do so." "Please, Babaji, don't go away," I cried repeatedly. "Take me with you," he replied. "Take me with you." He replied, "Not now, some other time." Overcome by emotion, I disregarded his warning. As I tried to pursue him, I discovered that my feet were firmly rooted to the floor. From the door, Babaji gave me a last affectionate glance. My eyes were fixed on him longingly as he raised his hand by way of benediction and walked away. After a few minutes, my feet were free. I sat down and went into a deep meditation, unceasingly thanking God, not only for answering my prayer, but for blessing me by a meeting with Babaji. My whole body seemed sanctified through the touch of the ancient, ever youthful master. Long had it been my burning desire to behold him. Until now, I have never recounted to anyone the story of my meeting with Babaji, holding it as the most sacred of my human experiences. I have hidden it in my heart. But the thought occurred to me that readers of this autobiography would be more inclined to believe in the reality of the secluded Babaji with his world interests if I relate that I have seen him with my own eyes. I have helped an artist to draw for this book a true picture of the Yogi Christ of modern India. The eve of my departure for the United States found me in Sri Yukteswar's holy presence. Forget you were born among Hindus, and don't adopt all the ways of the Americans. Take the best of both peoples, he said in his calm way of wisdom. Be your true self, a child of God. Seek and incorporate into your being the best qualities of all your brothers, scattered over the earth in various races. Then he blessed me. All those who come to you with faith, seeking God, will be helped. As you look at them, the spiritual current emanating from your eyes will enter their brains and change their material habits, making them more God conscious. Smilingly, he added, your lot to attract sincere souls is very good. Everywhere you go, even in the wilderness, you will find friends. Both of Sri Yukteswar's blessings have been amply demonstrated. I came alone to America, in which I had not a single friend, but there I found thousands ready to receive the timeless soul teachings. I left India in August 1920 on the City of Sparta, the first passenger boat sailing for America after the close of the World War. I had been able to book passage only after the removal, in ways fairly miraculous, of many red tape difficulties concerning the granting of my passport. During the 2-month voyage, a fellow passenger found out that I was the Indian delegate to the Boston Congress. Swami Yogananda, he said, with the first of many quaint pronunciations by which I was later to hear my name spoken by the Americans, please favor the passengers with lecture night, Thursday night. I think we would all benefit by a talk on the battle of life and how to fight it. Alas, I had to fight the battle of my own life, I discovered on Wednesday, desperately trying to organize my ideas into a lecture on English. I finally abandoned all preparations. My thoughts, like a wild colt eyeing a saddle, refused any cooperation with the rules of English grammar. Fully trusting in Master's past assurances, however, I appeared before my Thursday audience in the saloon of the steamer. No eloquence rose to my lips. Speechlessly, I stood before the assemblage. After an endurance contest lasting 10 minutes, the audience realized my predicament and began to laugh. Here's a picture of a group of people at the International Congress of Religious Liberals. Sri Yogananda with a few of the delegates to the International Congress of Religious Liberals, October 1920, Boston, Massachusetts, at which Yoganandaji gave his maiden speech in America. Left to right, so we got Reverend T.R. Williams. Here is Professor Yushigasaki. This one is Reverend Jabez T. Sunderland. This is Sri Yogananda. And then this gentleman here is Reverend C.W. Went. Interesting, hey? Oh, here's another picture. During his 32 years in the West, the great guru initiated more than 100,000 students in yoga. Yoganandaji on stage conducting a class in Denver, Colorado, 1924. In hundreds of cities, he taught the largest yoga classes in the world. Through his books and his lessons for home study and the establishment of monastic centers for training teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda ensured the continuance of the worldwide mission given to him by Mahavatar Babaji. And here's one of his classes. That's a big group. Okay. The situation was not funny to me at the moment. Indignantly, I sent a silent prayer to Master. You can speak. His voice sounded instantly within my consciousness. My thoughts fell at once into a friendly relation with the English language. 45 minutes later, the audience was still attentive. The talk won me a number of invitations to lecture later before various groups in America. I never could remember afterward a word that I had spoken, but discreet inquiry I learned from a number of passengers. You gave an inspiring lecture in stirring and correct English. At this delightful news, I humbly thanked my guru for his timely help, realizing anew that he was ever with me, setting at naught all barriers of time and space. Once in a while, during the remainder of the ocean trip, I experienced a few apprehensive twinges about the coming English lecture ordeal at the Boston Congress. Lord, I prayed deeply, please let my sole inspiration be thyself. The city of Sparta docked near Boston in late September. On October 6, 1920, I addressed the Congress with my maiden speech in America. It was well received. I sighed in relief. The magnanimous secretary of the American Utilitarian Association wrote the following comment in a published account of the Congress proceedings. And that account was from New Pilgrimages of the Spirit, Boston Beacon Press, 1921. Swami Yogananda, delegate from the Brahmacharya ashram of Ranchi, brought the greetings of his association to the Congress. In fluent English and with a forceful delivery, he gave an address of a philosophical character on the science of religion, which has been printed in pamphlet form for a wider distribution. Religion, he maintained, is universal and it is one. We cannot possibly universalize particular customs and conventions, but the common element in religion can be universalized, and we may ask all alike to follow and obey it. Because of Father's generous check, I was able to remain in America after the Congress was over. 3 happy years were spent in humble circumstances in Boston. I gave public lectures, taught classes, and wrote a book of poems, Songs of the Soul, with a preface by Dr. Frederick B. Robinson, president of the College of the City of New York. Here's a footnote about that, published by Self-Realization Fellowship. Doctors and Mrs. Robinson visited India in 1939 and were honored guests at the Yogoda Satsanga meeting. Starting a transcontinental tour in 1924, I spoke before thousands in many of the principal cities. In Seattle, I embarked for vacation in beautiful Alaska. With the help of large-hearted students, by the end of 1925, I had established an American headquarters on Mount Washington Estates in Los Angeles. The building is the one I had seen years before in my vision at Kashmir. I hastened to send Sri Yukteswar's picture of these distant American activities. He replied with a postcard in Bengali, which I here translate. 11th August, 1926. Child of my heart, O Yogananda. Seeing the photos of your school and students, what joy comes in my life I cannot express in words. I am melting in joy to see your yoga students of different cities. Hearing about your methods of chant, affirmations, healing vibrations, and divine healing prayers, I cannot refrain from thanking you from my heart. Seeing the gate, the winding hilly way upward, and the beautiful scenery spread out beneath Mount Washington Estates, I yearn to behold it all with my own eyes. Everything here is going on well. Through the grace of God, may you ever be in bliss. Sri Yukteswar Giri. Years sped by. I lectured in every part of my new land and addressed hundreds of clubs, colleges, churches, and groups of every denomination. During the decade of 1920 to 1930, my yoga classes were attended by tens of thousands of Americans. To them all, I dedicated a new book of prayers and soul thoughts, whispers from eternity, with a preface from, is that Madame or Mademoiselle? I think it's Mademoiselle. Mademoiselle Amalita Gali Kirsi. I was thinking if it was French or something else. But anyways, this was published by Self-Realization Fellowship. And here is a picture of Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. I get those two mixed up. But anyways, this is en route to Alaska. Yoganandaji in his cabin on a steamer en route to Alaska during Transcontinental Speaking Tour, 1924. Sometimes, usually on the first of the month, when bills rolled in for the upkeep of Mount Washington Center, headquarters of Self-Realization Fellowship, I thought longingly of the simple peace of India. But daily I saw a widening understanding between West and East. My soul rejoiced. George Washington, the father of his country, who felt on many occasions that he was being divinely guided, uttered in his farewell address the following words of spiritual inspiration for America. It will be worthy of a free and enlightened and at no distant period a great nation to give to mankind the magnanimous and too novel example of a people always guided by an exalted justice and benevolence. Who can doubt that in the course of time and things, the fruits of such a plan would richly repay any temporary advantages which might be lost by a steady adherence to it? Can it be that Providence has not connected the permanent felicity of a nation with its virtue? Here's a picture of Paramahansa Yogananda at the White House. Paramahansa Yogananda and Mr. John Balfour leaving the White House after a call on President Calvin Coolidge, who is looking out of the window. You could see a shadow back here of the president. The Washington Herald, January 25th, 1927, reported, Swami Yogananda was greeted with evident pleasure by Mr. Coolidge, who told him he had been reading a great deal about him. This is the first time in the history of India that a Swami has been received officially by the president. Walt Whitman's Hymn to America, from Thou Mother with Thy Equal Brood. Thee in thy future, thee in thy larger, saner brood of male, thee in thy athletes, moral, spiritual, south, north, west, east, thee in thy moral wealth and civilization, until which thy proudest material civilization must remain in vain, thee in thy all-supplying, all-enclosing worship, thee in no single Bible Savior merely, thy Saviors countless, latent within thyself, equal to any, divine as any. These in thee, certain to come. Today I prophesy.